Hi, it's the Carter Man. It's the evening of March 24th, Friday, and this is my second take on this particular video, by the way. In the first take, I mentioned the disease whose name we're not allowed to say, otherwise we'll be banned from social media. So I told the truth about it, so that's not allowed. So I'm recutting this and I'm leaving that part out, okay? The disease that we're not allowed to mention. But the real reason that I'm talking to you right now, in a way it relates to that because it's about the total deception that we're living under in this country today, specifically in Washington, D.C., okay? I've told you before that it has become nothing more than a conspiracy of lies. And today I had lunch with some really, truly great Americans, a wonderful couple, CR-PAC supporters. And they asked me, how are we going to resolve this problem? I said, we have to dismantle and restructure the entire political system and not fix it. Anybody who says fix it is part of the problem, as I've told you before, but totally restructure it. And I gave him an example of why, okay? Last week, there was a hearing in the House of Representatives at which Blinken appeared, speaking about inveterate liars, okay? There's a man who knows not the truth, and let's put it this way, if Diogenes ever came to the guy, he'd blow out the lantern. That's what he does, wage war and spread deception. That's Blinken. And he was being questioned by a fellow inveterate liar. I'm sorry. That's exactly what it was. I'm gonna prove it to you, okay? I'm gonna prove it to you now, all right? He was being questioned by some guy named Brad Sherman, okay? A career politician. He has been in Congress for 26 years from California, Democrat. Imagine that. 26 years this guy has not worked for a living. He's fed at the public trough, spent our money, raised our taxes, and deceived us every single day for 26 years. We need term limits. I'll get more to that in just a minute. And so he's questioning Blinken, and there was a setup. Now, I worked in Washington for almost 50 years. I was the highest level communications director in the U.S. Senate for a couple of years. So I know how these things are staged. Let me tell you how they set up the lie, okay? Blinken is there, his nice little suit, and Brad is questioning him in his nice little suit, which he can afford because his net worth is around $8 to $10 million. How does that compare with your net worth? How does somebody with that net worth represent people, the average American, whose total net worth is about $121,000? They can't. That's why we need salary income limits for these people while they're serving. So the hearing was about the Nord Stream pipeline that we blew up, that Joe Biden blew up. And it was clear the real purpose of Brad's questioning was to provide cover for his buddy Blinken. So let me read you how he asked the question, okay, how he termed the question, how he did the setup, okay, and this pre-scripted exchange between he and Blinken. You're going to see where the lie comes in a second. Here's how Brad did it, looking very serious and onerous. Last September, Nord Stream pipeline was blown up. You are now in a formal setting. There's no end to these people's ego. Can you assure the world that no agency of the U.S. government blew up those pipelines or facilitated that act? Can you assure the world, he asked Blinken. Blinken, you see a little smile there, he knew. Okay, good work, you delivered the lines perfectly. On cue, Blinken replies, yes, I can. Now, what's your point, Carter? That was a complete setup. It was a way of lying to the American people, of being deceptive, of being clever and cunning. Notice that Brad didn't say to Blinken, did our government blow up the pipeline or facilitate that act? If Blinken said no to that, when the left finally has to admit the truth, which we all now know, he could be charged with lying to Congress, which is a pretty serious charge. You can serve several years in jail for that. So Brad made sure that he get a denial on record that could not later be exposed as a lie. He didn't say, did you blow it up? He said, can you assure the world that you didn't? Well, Blinken said, yeah, I can do that. And somebody says, well, you lied. He said, no, I didn't lie. He didn't ask me if I did it. He said, can I assure the world I didn't? Well, of course, that's why it was part of this. It was scripted. It was pre-scripted. And you might say, Carter, that sounds like a bit of a stretch. You know, for normal, everyday, good, decent Americans, it'd be a heck of a stretch, but not for career politicians. Not for career politicians, because they have set up the con now for decades on end. And you just last week, with Brad and Blinken, saw a perfect example of it. Okay? Everything is weasel words. Everything is nuances. So they can provide cover for themselves as they lie outright to the American people. I'm just offended by this. I'm outraged by it. Because it was such a, if you get to see the footage, you'll see the arrogance in both of the faces. Okay? Because they knew what they were up to. And they consider the American people dunces. They disdain the American people and said, they'll never figure us out. Well, you know, we have figured them out, haven't we? That's why your CR PAC is pushing for term limits, severe term limits, 6 years and go home. Bye-bye. We're pushing for total recall that you can have. If you get 15% in a state or district who wants a recall vote, there can be a recall vote. Let's make them fear every vote they cast, every move they make. We shouldn't have to fear the politicians, which we most certainly do now. They should have to fear us. Total recall. We're going to have income caps. While they're serving, they live on the exact same amount of money, average net income of the people in their state or district. It's only fair. If they want to represent us, then resemble us. That's fair. That's fair. If they don't want to do it, stay home. Live in your mansion. Stay home. And session caps, 6 months. Senate and the House, you come to Washington, meet 6 months, cram in all the disasters you can cause and damage you can do in those 6 months, and get the hell out of Dodge. We've had it with you. Okay? Folks, go to Constitutional Rights PAC, crpac.com. Sign up, subscribe. Make sure you get all the information we're putting out, and join the fight. Join the fight. Stand up. Fight back. Speak out. Because we're going to turn this thing around. We're not going to repair it. We're going to dismantle and rebuild it. All right? Let's do this thing.